Hi, boys and girls. We're going to continue reading our chapters from Wonder today. If you remember last time we left off, there was a pretty big incident that happened in the woods at the nature retreat. And it was Jack and Augie off in the woods on their own. And some of these boys from another school came and really bullied them and said very mean things and even attacked them. It was very surprising that boys from their own school, who had been bullying them all year long, were the ones that came to rescue them. So that was a pretty neat change of events in the story. We're going to pick up right from there where we left off yesterday. This next chapter is called The Emperor's Guard. We backtracked through the grass for a good 10 minutes to see if we could find my hearing aids. But it was way too dark to see anything. We literally had to hold on to each other's shirts and walk in a single file so we wouldn't trip over one another. It was like black ink that was poured all around. "This is hopeless," said Henry. "They could be anywhere." "Maybe we can come back with a flashlight," answered Amos. "No, it's okay," I said. "Let's just go back. Thanks, though." We walked back toward the cornfields and then cut through them until the back of the giant screen came into view. Since it was facing away from us, we didn't get any light from the screen at all until we had walked around to the edge of the woods again. That's where we finally started seeing a little light. There was no sign of the 7th graders anywhere. "Where do you think they went?" said Jack. "Back to the food truck," said Amos. "They're probably thinking we're going to report them." "Are we?" said Henry. They looked at me. I shook my head. "Okay," said Amos, "but little dude, don't walk around here alone again, okay? If you need to go anywhere, tell us, and we'll go with you." "Okay," I nodded. As we got closer to the screen, I could hear, "High on a hill was a lonely goat herd," and could smell the cotton candy from one of the concession stands near the food trucks. There were lots of kids milling around in this area, so I pulled what was left of my hoodie over my head and kept my face down, hands in my pockets, as we made our way through the crowd. It had been a long time since I had been without my hearing aids, and it felt like I was miles under the earth. It felt like that song Miranda used to sing to me. "Ground control to Major Tom. Your circuit's dead, there's something wrong." I did notice as I walked that Amos had stayed right next to me, and Jack was close on the other side of me, and Miles was in front of us, and Henry was in back of us. They were surrounding me as we walked through the crowds of kids, like I had my own Emperor's Guard. The next chapter is called Sleep. Then they came out of the narrow valley, and at once she saw the reason. There stood Peter and Edmund and all the rest of Aslan's army, fighting desperately against the crowd of horrible creatures whom she had seen last night. Only now, in the daylight, they looked even stranger and more evil and more deformed. I stopped there. I had been reading for over an hour, and sleep still didn't come. It was almost 2 a.m. Everyone else was asleep. I had my flashlight on under my sleeping bag, and maybe the light was why I couldn't sleep, but I was too afraid to turn it off. I was afraid of how dark it was outside the sleeping bag. When we got back to our section in front of the movie screen, no one had even noticed we had been gone. Mr. Tushman and Ms. Rubin and Summer and all the rest of the kids were just watching the movie. They had no clue how something bad had almost happened to me and Jack. It's so weird how that can be. How you could have a night that's the worst in your life, but to everybody else, it's just an ordinary night. Like on my calendar at home, I would mark this as being one of the most horrific days of my life. This and the day Daisy died. But for the rest of the world, this was just another ordinary day. Or maybe it was even a good day. Maybe someone won the lottery today. Amos, Miles, and Henry brought me back, brought me and Jack over to where we had been sitting before, with Summer and Maya and Reed, and then they went and sat where they had been sitting before, with Jimena and Savannah and their group. In a way, everything was exactly as we had left it before we went looking for the toilets. The sky was the same, the movie was the same, everyone's faces were the same. Mine was the same, but something was different. Something had changed. I could see Amos and Miles and Henry telling their group about what had just happened. I knew they were talking about it because they kept looking over at me while we were talking. Even though the movie was still playing, people were whispering about it in the dark. News like that spreads fast. It was what everyone was talking about on the bus ride back to the cabins. All the girls, even girls I didn't know very well, were asking me if I was okay. The boys were all talking about getting revenge on the group of 7th grade jerks, trying to figure out what school they were from. I wasn't planning on telling the teachers about any of what had happened, but they found out anyway. Maybe it was the torn sweatshirt and the bloody elbow, or maybe it's just the teachers hear everything. When we got back to the camp, Mr. Tushman took me to the first aid office, and while I was getting my elbow cleaned and bandaged up by the camp nurse, Mr. Tushman and the camp director were in the next room talking with Amos and Jack and Henry and Miles, trying to get a description of the troublemakers. When he asked me about them a little later, I said I couldn't remember their faces at all, which wasn't true. It's their faces I kept seeing every time I closed my eyes to sleep. The look of total horror on the girl's face when she first saw me. The way the kid with the flashlight, Eddie, looked at me as he talked to me, like he hated me. Like a lamb to the slaughter. I remember Dad saying that ages ago, but tonight, I think I finally got what it meant. This next chapter is just 1 page long. It's called The Aftermath. Mom was waiting for me in the front of the school along with the other parents when the bus arrived. Mr. Tushman told me on the bus ride home that they had called my parents to tell them that there had been a situation the night before, but that everyone was fine. He said the camp director and several of the counselors went looking for the hearing aid in the morning while we all went swimming in the lake, but they couldn't find them anywhere. Broarwood would reimburse us the cost of the hearing aids, he said. They felt bad about what had happened. I wonder if Eddie had taken my hearing aids with him as a kind of souvenir. They felt bad, or something to remember the orc. Mom gave me a tight hug when I got off the bus, but she didn't slam me with questions like I thought she might. Her hug felt good, and I didn't shake it off like some of the other kids were doing with their parents' hugs. The bus driver started unloading our duffel bags, and I went to find mine while Mom talked to Mr. Tushman and Ms. Rubin, who had walked over to her. As I rolled my bag toward her, a lot of kids who don't usually say anything to me were nodding hello and patting me on the back as I walked by them. "Ready?" Mom said when she saw me. She took my duffel bag, and I didn't even try to hold on to it. I was fine with her carrying it. If she had wanted to carry me on her shoulders, I would have been fine with that too, to be truthful. As we started to walk away, Mr. Tushman gave me a quick, tight hug, but didn't say anything. All right. Those were 3 rather short chapters, but I think they summarize really nicely the big event that happened in our story yesterday. So I just want you to think about what happened in the woods that night. I want you to tell me some of your thoughts about Augie's new friends, Amos, Henry, Miles. They all kind of walked around him and guarded him. Why do you think they did that? Why the sudden change of heart? Why are they being nice? Why are they being friendly towards him now? Things have certainly changed. And don't forget, Julian was not there during this trip. What do you think might happen when they go back to school? Do you think they'll continue to guard Augie? Or do you think things will go back to the way they were? Do you think Julian will get everybody else to continue bullying them? I don't know. It's hard to tell. It's interesting how one person being there or not being there can change the whole course of this story. Good things to think about. We only have a few more chapters left, boys and girls. Take a look. Look how far we've come. We just have a little sliver left. I'll keep reading to you next week. And don't forget that we will have another class meeting. It will be on Thursday at 11 o'clock. I hope you all can be there. We are going to show our class slideshow for the year, so you're welcome to attend and watch that. And if you can't make it for some reason, I will do my best to send it to you in another way. All right, boys and girls, until we read together next time, I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy the beautiful weather. We only have 5 more days. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. See you next time. Bye.